Dr. Kimbert's office is on the second floor.
And you'll be waiting here until I'm done?
Perhaps afterwards we can visit the weather vane for hot chocolate.
Principal Weems, this feeble attempt at bonding is beneath you.
A lot of times parents, when they want to bring their child to therapy, they don't often tell them that they're going to therapy, and they kind of just try to sneak it upon them. I think that that's not a really great way to make people feel comfortable and safe, because if they're feeling like they're being forced into a situation, then how open are they going to be to really share it? So I think always try to explain why you want someone to go to see therapy, and though you might think about bribery or sneak it upon them, it's just going to make them more angry when they're there, and it's going to be harder for the therapist to be able to reach them. I usually say give the honest opinions of what you think is happening and why you think that it's going to help, and give them a kind of say in how many sessions are they going to have to go to and what do they need. Now, I think that in some cases therapy is kind of mandatory because someone may be going through really difficult comportment issues or something that's seriously dangerous, or in some cases it's court mandated that you have to go seek therapy. Problem is, as the therapist, when someone doesn't want to share, you can't force them to. And so it's really hard to be able to build that alliance.
And chauffeuring your students around is clearly below your pay grade.
Given your history, I'm sure you're intent on running away. I'm here to prevent that from happening.
I wish you luck.
And there we go. Right away when the principal states that, I'm here to stop you from running away, and that given your history, she's already labeled her and said, I know who you are. And she set down the gauntlet. She's made this a challenge for Wednesday. That, you know what, if you think you're going to get your way, you're not going to. And with someone that leans towards being more oppositional, that's the first thing that Wednesday's going to want to do. This has now made it a game. And unless you're sure you're going to win, you completely should not set down the gauntlet of saying this is going to be a challenge between both of us. Plus, it also gets rid of that feeling of the principal's on her side. She's directly stated that she's not, that she's here to do something against her will, and no matter what she wants to do, she's going to make her do it.
I read the notes from your school counselor.
Mrs. Bronstein, she had a nervous breakdown after our last session, had to take a 6-month sabbatical.
I don't think that the first thing that you should start with is that I've read up on you. I usually even don't read clients' files before I first see them because I want to have this open-minded thought of who someone is. Everyone has their own biases depending on what they see, and so getting that third-hand knowledge might bias me against what I might have seen from one of my clients, and so I like to go in really fresh. Afterwards, I might take a look at the notes and see and have a discussion on what someone else feels or thinks. I really want to be able to get to know what someone is from my own interpretation, because I'm going to be the one that's going to be going through the different tools and techniques with them. And I think also that it starts it off with this feeling of I know who you are because I've read up on you. And even if you're reading up on someone's biography, it's not going to be exactly what you might see when you meet them one-on-one. Depending on the room, depending on the space, everything might change.
Go ahead and take a seat.
Now, I really do like her room setup. It's warm, it's calming, and it seems more like a living room than a therapy session. It's also kind of interesting because in this case, there is no table that's in between them and the client, which for some people might make them feel more comfortable because there's this open space in between us. Yet for people that might be a little bit more defensive or apprehensive or have social anxiety, they might actually appreciate having a space that's in between them and the therapist. That box of tissue is really interesting, but it kind of sets where is the therapist going to sit and where's the client going to sit. And here the chairs are very similar. I usually allow the person that's coming into my room be able to choose where they feel comfortable to sit because I've already set it up so I feel comfortable in any single space. But people often ask me where do I usually sit, and really it's dependent on where someone else wants to. But here you see where the tissue box is placed. Because it's placed on one side, you know that that's kind of where you're expected to sit, because the chances are it's not going to be the therapist that might need a tissue, though sometimes we need tissues too, and that's okay.
Mrs. Bronstein, she had a nervous breakdown after our last session, had to take a 6-month sabbatical.
Also, it's interesting because Wednesday starts with a very incendiary kind of comment. I broke the last therapist. So be careful. She's kind of saying, be careful, I might be dangerous, or I might see through this, or this isn't going to really work. And I like that the therapist didn't bite onto that. She didn't decide that she's going to have this battle with Wednesday about it, or say that, well, this isn't going to happen to me, which again would have started a challenge between both of them.
How did you feel about that?
Vindicated. But someone who crochets for a hobby isn't a worthy adversary.
Adversary?
And so you already know, and you can see the therapist sit back, that right away Wednesday sees this as an adversarial relationship. Really, your therapist is supposed to be your partner, to be able to help you set your goals, what you want to get out of therapy. It should be really something where you're both going on a journey together. If you're going to deal with this as an adversarial relationship, it's not going to work. Therapy is about giving you different tools and techniques and understanding more about yourself so you can live a better life. Not so that I can be able to find out and use against you all of the things that I know about you. I think that for Wednesday, because she's been bullied, because she's had all of this hardship, because people have always been against her, and sees herself as this black sheep, that she sees most relationships as adversarial. Even the relationship with the people that love her, like her parents. When she's talking to Thing, she says, they just want to find out everything about me and you're a spy.
Personal philosophy.
That's easy. I think that this is a waste of time. I see the world as a place that must be endured, and my personal philosophy is kill or be killed.
She sees the world as a place that she doesn't trust. She has learned that she can only trust herself. That right away makes it really hard to be able to open up and share things with someone. So I wouldn't try to get into deep conversations about things that are very personal when someone doesn't really trust me. We only show people the pieces that we feel comfortable. As you gain trust with someone, hopefully they'll open up and share more pieces of themselves with you. But that's a really honored kind of sanctified thing. To be able to trust someone enough, not just to show the things that are pretty and you're proud of, but to the things that you might be embarrassed about or hurt or even see as weaknesses. You know what? You don't have to share with me anything. Even if I ask you a direct question, I don't expect you to just unfurl your world to me. You don't know me yet. Hopefully over time you'll feel comfortable enough to be able to do that. And if not, that's okay too.
So, for instance, when someone bullies your brother, your response is to dump piranha in the pool.
You know the old saying, never bring a knife to a sword fight.
You see her head kind of like go up like, I'm trying to incite you. I'm trying to get a rise out of you and see what's there. But she's doing a good job of being able to just leave all of those things apart because in the end, this isn't a battle. This is a team.
The point is you assaulted a boy and showed no remorse for your actions.
Up until that point, which right away now she's angry and you can hear on the therapist's voice that she's upset at Wednesdays. She did something wrong. And she also then makes a label of how she must feel, that you showed no remorse. If you're wanting to start a therapy session with someone that's done something that they may not want to share about it, the first thing that you shouldn't do is accuse them of it and then state and label exactly how you think they feel. Instead, you want to find out why they did something and how do they feel about it and what were the reasons for this? Because defending your brother is a really understandable and loving thing to do. As a therapist, you're not there as a judge or a lawyer. You're not there to defend and you're not there to accuse. You're not there to lay down a sentence and to be able to label someone else's feelings. You're really there to be able to understand and to want to be curious as to why so that you can make it better.
That's why you're here.
He lost a testicle.
Shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. It's horrible. The way she says it though, because it's so dry and cold that she doesn't really feel bad about it because she really doesn't really feel bad about it. And the therapist has actually proved that Wednesday was completely right, that it's her versus everyone else, that people aren't going to understand her, that she's just way too dark and beyond redemption. And so why should she share or open up? In that moment, she really did cut all ties of being able to reach her in an easy way. Because the most important thing with therapy is to form an alliance, to be able to be with someone, to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes so you can see the world through their eyes, how she feels, that she's against everyone, that no one's ever going to be able to understand her or even care to because they just see her as dark. And because of that, she's going to play into that part. You think that that's who she is, well, that's just who she's going to be because no one's going to care enough to be able to see beyond that anyways.
I did the world a favor. People like Dalton shouldn't be allowed to procreate. I've answered all your questions.
We're not done yet.
I allow people to be able to get up and not kind of cut them off right away with that cutting off of we're not done yet. Again, you're setting that gauntlet. When you're saying I'm going to try to control you, especially to someone that's in her teens, they don't want to be controlled in the first place. That's one of the main things that teens want to do, to be able to gain respect and validity and to be able to have autonomy over their own actions. And so especially in a therapy session where you're supposed to be equals and partners, to be able to say, you know what, you have to sit down because I'm going to force you to, especially with someone that leans to being oppositional and seeing themselves as different than everyone else, it's not going to work. And they're not going to be safe or want to be able to go back for the next time.
Therapy is a valuable tool to help you understand yourself. It can teach you new ways to deal with your emotions. It can also help you build a life that you want.
Which is all true, but the way that she says it is kind of condescending, that I know more than you do, and I'm going to be able to show you the ways of the world. I don't understand the inner dynamics of my clients better than they do. I have different tools that hopefully we can go through together to be able to understand it and make things better. You're there to listen and to be able to absorb and learn from the person that you're working with. And I think that a lot of times when you end up putting yourself on this pedestal, you're just going to end up being knocked down anyways. And it's not really true. We all have our own failures and mistakes and things that we don't understand about the world. A lot of the therapeutic work is about being curious and being empathic. And I hate the thing about putting people in boxes, because when you label and you kind of say that I know more than you do, that doesn't make anyone feel like they're comfortable to be able to share things. They're going to feel that they're going to be judged. And that's one of the main fears that people have, is that fear of judgment from others, especially from therapists. Why would you end up sharing the stuff that you would really need to share in therapy, the stuff that you made mistakes, the things that you're ashamed of, the things that you see as your own weaknesses and frailties? You just wouldn't do that. And so often those first moments, those first 7 to 15 seconds when you meet someone, you've already decided whether they're a safe person or not a safe person to be able to share.
I know the life that I want.
Tell me about it. Everything said in these sessions is strictly confidential.
And that's really important. Important to share what is confidential and what are the rules between when things are not confidential. And that often changes also depending on age. So in different parts of the world, people get adult confidentiality often before they hit the age of 18, because if you're a 16-year-old, why are you going to share any of the things that you're going through? And if your parents or teachers are going to be told. Now, talking to a counselor in a school or a hospital setting, those confidentiality rules may be different. But it's really important right at the beginning to be able to say what is confidential and what wouldn't be confidential, and at what point would I have to break my confidentiality in order to keep you safe. And usually that would be imminent harm, if you're imminently going to be suicidal. Not ideation of suicide, which would be thoughts of suicide, but actually about to commit it with a plan.
Do your plans involve becoming an author? I understand you've written 3 novels about a teen girl detective, Viper de la Muerte.
And you see her mouth open up, she's like, oh my God, you've already betrayed my privacy by reading my books without my knowledge. And that's a huge no-no. Like, even for parents reading through other people's journals, again, little caveat, if you really think that they're in danger, that it might be worth the risk, breaking trust to be able to make sure that your person is really safe. But especially for a therapist, that is such a breach of trust that I can see her never wanting to be able to share. You've read the novels without asking me. I'm going to abide by their boundaries and respect that, because for a lot of people that go to therapy, they've already had their boundaries violated so many times that trust is a really difficult thing, especially when we're here talking about their inner workings.
Can you tell me about her?
Viper is smart, perceptive, chronically misunderstood.
Really, she should be asking Wednesday about how she feels about things and what does she enjoy. And if Wednesday decides to share that she likes to write, then she could have opened up to ask about what she writes and how she feels. When someone writes a book, often the main character has pieces of themselves that they're sharing. And that would have been a wonderful opening, because she decided to share these characteristics and say, why did you choose these characteristics? Are these about you? If there's someone that you know, do you like them, dislike it? And that would have been a nice way to be able to bond, to share a moment where someone can relax and let their guard down.
Any luck getting your work published?
Editors are short-sighted, fear-based life forms.
And And then she kind of brings up that she hasn't, which she probably already knows because she's read these books, that she hasn't been able to get them published. So that's a sore spot, an area that might be very sensitive to Wednesday because perhaps she sees that as one of her own failures. When someone feels hurt and defensive, their guard goes right back up and they feel uncomfortable. And if you feel uncomfortable and anxious, you're going to share even less. You would only bring up hurts when you really feel that the person is safe and comfortable and ready to be able to confront it. And so it's often this kind of push and pull that you have to be able to understand where someone is going and what their body language is. What are they saying to you? Am I comfortable and relaxed and we can do this? Or am I not ready and let's wait a little bit longer? And a lot of that is by the way that people hold themselves. And if you're able to think and also read someone else so you're not too much in your head, you can do a really good job of, if you went too far, you can kind of pull it back and say, maybe you're not ready yet to talk about that, and that's okay.
One once described my writing as gratuitously morbid and suggested I seek psychiatric help. Ironic, isn't it?
She's been told that her writing is so dark that she has to see therapy because of it. And that's the opposite. Like, we have darkness in all of us. We're dark and light, and often we can share in our writing or our artwork all of those dark parts of ourself, and that's actually really healthy. So people often share with me some really dark, horrible, morbid pictures or thoughts and books. That doesn't mean that you're dark and morbid. That's a way of being able to express it, and often healthy. It's better to keep it out and have a place for it to exist instead of it being stuck within you. And so we can go through those themes without it being something that it is a mar on your personal character because you have this dark place that you sometimes go. Because we all do. If it's plaguing you and you can't get over it or you're having cycling thoughts about it, well then let's deal with that also.
How did you take that?
I sent her a thank you.
And sometimes open-ended questions are also really threatening for people. You know, throw out instead like, oh, that must have been really hard. And then let them say yes or no to it. Especially at the beginning, sometimes people have a really hard time being able to answer really large questions because they're worried that their choices may have been the wrong one and that we're going to tell them how they should have done it or why they were wrong in the way that they did it.
I've always been open to constructive criticism.
I'm glad to hear that. Because I was sent the manuscripts as part of your psych evaluation.
I really don't like that. I don't like her mannerism about it. I don't like how she's like, well, I'm happy that you like that because I was shared all of these things because they're worried about you and they think that there's something wrong with you. I want to escape. Like, I want for Wednesday to escape because I'm like, oh no, you feel trapped and placed in a corner, but now she's pursuing her, coming too far emotionally towards her. I've already been sent things that tell me that there's something psychologically wrong with you, which is one of Wednesday's fears. One of these fears that she self-sabotages herself with, that she's actually worn as a cloak or a mantle. Well, everyone sees me as a black sheep if everyone's scared of me and thinks that I'm creepy and weird. So why should I let everyone in and see my humanity or the things that I care about? It'll just be used against me anyways.
The relationship I found most intriguing was that of Viper and her mother, Dominica. Why don't we dig into that?
And you can see she's not ready. You should be able to feel comfortable enough to be able to walk that back and say, I'm not sure if you're ready. You seem to take a step back when I said that. Do you want to wait to be able to talk about it? And allow them that space because that's really appreciated. That ability to be able to say, we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to.
Wednesday, part of this journey requires us going to uncomfortable places emotionally.
I don't travel well.
And it's true, therapy sometimes is about going to places which might make someone uncomfortable. You don't want therapy to be this warm bath where everyone feels great and you want to just kind of sit in it. But you also don't want it to be this terror either. There's this mid-growth point where you're kind of going in between that warm, safe space and then going towards things that make you feel uncomfortable for a period of time and then going back to where you feel safe. And that mid-range with that area of growth is where you can actually explore, trying something new and changing.
Would you mind if I use the powder room first?
Body language is also really important. I would say that the therapist is way too anxious, like really like just kind of like sitting really forward and square to her client. Her being so upright probably also doesn't help that unconscious part of us that deals with, is someone else uncomfortable? We can read that just by breath and by looking at someone else's body language, because body language is about 80% of actual language. She was a little bit more relaxed, breathing a little bit more slowly, and a little bit more from being square, which is kind of like confrontational, to turning herself and sitting a little bit more relaxed. I think that that also would make Wednesday be able to be a little bit more comfortable. It's really rare for people to escape from therapy, but I've had a lot of people ask, like, listen, if I need a break or I want to go, what do I do? And I always let them know that, you know what, like, you can walk out. If there's someone that's very young, I'll say, I have to kind of walk with you. But if you need to walk, that's completely okay. If you want to be able to sit somewhere else or have someone else come in. And sometimes we do therapy in places that are a little bit less kind of office-like, maybe to a park, or maybe we'll go for a walk together or sit inside of their car if they feel more comfortable doing that. Of course, that depends on the therapist. Some therapists may be comfortable in changing their space, their area that they've made for therapy, and other therapists may not be. In the end, you want both people to be able to feel safe and comfortable, because this is a relationship between the two. A journey that you take with someone else. Wednesday found her own ways out of her problems, but things may have ended more easily if she had checked out today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is the online interactive STEM learning platform with college-level courses on neural networks, computer science, math, physics, quantum mechanics, game theory, and a lot more. And they're all taught in a visual, hands-on way. Now, I wanted to try something different this time, and I was thinking what would help out a lot of people during exam time, and one of the big subjects that people have a really hard time dealing with is math. So I started out with pre-algebra, and it was wonderful because it was really taught in every single piece that makes pre-algebra. So it went through what are those parentheses and why do they use them, and then you get to try it out and see if you actually understand. Plus, what I love about Brilliant is that it asks you the questions. Do I actually understand, or did I just cheat and take a look at the answer and that's why I know it? And so you can learn at your own pace. So I'm really enjoying pre-algebra, and if you're having problem with math or anything in that STEM area, please check out Brilliant. And Brilliant has thousands of lessons like these with new exciting content being added every month, so you never have to stop learning. All you have to do to get started for free is visit brilliant.org/Georgia Dow or click on the link in the description, and the first 200 people will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. So just click on the button on the screen or head on over to brilliant.org/Georgia Dow. Clicking on that button really does help out this channel, so does clicking on the playlist above for more videos on psychology of your favorite shows. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. That's my thoughts on Wednesday and her therapy session. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.